February 18th, 2026 regular city council meeting. Please stand for the invocation and then the pledge of allegiance.
Dear my Father, thank you so much for our great community. Thank you for everyone that has gathered here this evening. Really do thank you so much for our great community. We have so much to be thankful for, and we ask for your continued grace as we move out through this year in our planning and our execution to make our community a better and safer place. I just ask you, again, just continue to watch over our men and women that put their lives on the line every day for us to keep us safe and sound. I ask these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we do roll call vote, I think I made this announcement earlier, but there are cupcakes in the back. So please help yourself. We don't generally have snacks. Are they good? See, if you're at home and you want to run down here, partake in our meeting, there is cupcakes and water. So couldn't ask for a better combination. Roll call vote, please. Or roll call, Teresa.
Councillor Padden.
Here.
Councillor Maldonado.
He's been excused for tonight.
Okay. Council President Hensley.
Present.
Mayor Hodson.
Here.
Councillor Davis.
Here.
Councillor Stearns.
Here.
Councillor Waterman.
Here. Great, thank you. Next on our agenda this evening is opportunity for citizen input. If you are interested in addressing the council on any non-agenda items, they're on the back podium there are our new white cards. If you want to fill those out and bring them up to our deputy city recorder, she'll make sure that we get them. It's your opportunity just to, like I said, address the council. You have 3 minutes to speak on anything that you'd like. If we can do something about it tonight, we will definitely look into that. I have no white cards here with me. Teresa, is there anyone online that's, no? Okay, then we will move on. We don't have any, item 5, we don't have any proclamations or presentations. I don't think we have anything that's been removed from the consent agenda. We'll move into the consent agenda.
You got it, Paul? Go for it.
I move to approve the consent agenda that includes approval of the January 21, 2026 City Council work session and regular meeting minutes, approval of OLCC annual liquor license renewals, approval of the full on-premise OLCC license for Andale Kitchen at 117 Northwest 2nd Avenue, approval of the full on-premise OLCC license for Sip and Slice at 272 North Grant Street, and approval of the letter of expectations.
Second.
Great. Motion's been made to approve the consent agenda by Councilor Waterman and second by Councilor Davis. And that includes the January 21st, 2026 City Council work session and regular meeting minutes, approval of the OLCC annual liquor license renewals, approval of a full on-premises commercial OLCC liquor license for Andale Kitchen located at 117 Northwest 2nd Avenue, approval of the full on-premises commercial OLCC liquor license for Sip and Slice at 272 North Grant Street, and a letter of expectations. Any discussion? Yes, Councilor Patton.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just would like to go on record that I think there is one item on the consent agenda that could use a little more transparency, but I am only one member of council and one member does not make a quorum. So I just want to go on record as saying that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comment, discussion? No. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Next up, item 8, appointments to boards and committees. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I move to approve the appointments of members Stephanie Boyce and Ted Hensley
to the Transit Advisory Committee with terms ending March 31st, 2029.
Second.
Motion has been made by Counselor Davis and seconded by Counselor Waterman to approve the appointment of member Stephanie Boyce and Ted Hensley to the Transit Advisory Committee with terms ending March 31st of 2029. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Also carries 5-0. Item 9 this evening is ordinances and resolutions. Item A, ordinance number 1662, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a contract with Canby Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $3,479,492 for the South Walnut Street Extension Project and declaring an emergency. Second reading, and Spencer has handouts. Thank you, sir.
So at the first reading, you had asked for kind of an update of what the road is currently going to be looking like.
I can put it on the screen too. Thank you.
So on your handout there, the first page shows the location of the road. I think she is pulling it up for everyone on Zoom. And on the printout, it kind of shows there's a red mark kind of right there by the highway. So this phase of the Walnut Street project that CanbyX is going to be doing is from First Avenue all the way up to just short of the highway where that red mark is. And then the second page will kind of show you the layout of what the signalized intersection will look like once we finish up with ODOT getting the last of our permits together. So you had asked for that, and I didn't make the deadline to make it into your packet, so that's why they get the printouts. But
No, appreciate the printout and the screenshot here so everyone can kind of see what a reminder of what Walnut Street's going to look like as it starts to come together and get finished. So, and I know we had a little bit of this last week, Spencer, but any progress with ODOT on that intersection?
we are getting closer. We're still officially waiting to hear back. There was a few comments that were getting addressed. It was resubmitted. So
Okay.
we're whittling it down.
Okay.
I think, thank you, Spencer. Visually speaking, if you look again on that map where Walnut intersects, at the top of the picture here through the trees, correct me if I'm wrong, Spencer, but is that sort of the first phase that we would get into with, you were mentioning of removing trees?
Yeah. So with the emergency clause, we can start in on this probably, I think we have already scheduled a pre-construction with the contractor for next week. So hopefully here within 2 weeks or so that they can schedule to start moving in, clearing some of the trees and start doing some of the prep work.
Perfect.
For building the road itself.
Great. Yes, Counselor.
Yeah, so I just want to double check. So if the plan is to remove some trees up there, I know that at that initial part there's talk of probably locating the dog park and stuff up there. Will there be any plans to salvage any of those trees for a later project, or are you planning to clear the whole lot?
To be honest, I haven't gone out there to specifically see which trees are in the right of way for the road. Per the contract with Canby Excavating it's just where the road is going. So
Okay.
anything outside of that shouldn't really be affected at the moment.
Yeah, I guess I would say if that's the case and it can be conveyed to them to just, if there's any trees that can be saved there that are of good health or whatever, it's better to keep them. And then if they have to be cut down later, do it rather than cutting them down now and wishing they had been there for later.
Correct.
So, thank you.
Great. Spencer, anything else we need to know about this fun project?
We're excited to finally start moving dirt here shortly.
No, that's going to be great. So thank you for bringing this, the visuals for today. It's good a little bit more encouraging. So, thank you. All right. Yes, Councilor Patton.
I move, let me make sure I'm in the right place here. I move to consider ordinance, I move to approve ordinance number 1662, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a contract with Canby Excavation Incorporated in the amount of $479,492 for the South Walnut Street Extension Project and declaring an emergency with a roll call vote.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Patton and seconded by Councilor Davis to adopt ordinance number 1662, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a contract with Canby Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $3,479,492 for the South Walnut Street Extension Project, declaring an emergency, and roll call vote.
Councilor Patton?
Aye.
Council President Hensley?
Aye.
Councilor Davis?
Aye.
Councilor Stearns?
Aye.
Councilor Waterman?
Aye.
That passes 5-0. Thank you, Spencer. Appreciate it. Item B is consider ordinance number 1663, an ordinance authorizing the interim city administrator to extend by 9 months the contract with MSNW Group LLC in the amount of $113,760 for the remainder of the year for custodial services for the city of Canby. First reading. And is that?
Teresa, you can take
That's you.
It's me.
Hello, sir.
Get all the fun jobs. We have a contract with the custodian, and this is one of those things that unfortunately with everything that's gone on, it got a little away from us. The plan was to figure out how we wanted to deal with custodial services, but with everything that's gone on in the last 6 or 7 months, we had to push it on the back burner. So we're just asking to extend it to December so that our interim city administrator and our finance director and us can get together and decide where we actually want to go with custodial services, then bring that back to the council with a more permanent option or a permanent plan in the future. So this is just an extension of our current one to give us more time to figure out what we actually want to have done.
Okay. Any questions for Todd on this? Okay.
While we have your attention, one of the things that we'll be looking at when we come back to you as part of the budget process is whether or not we would like to take this on in-house, which requires FTE headcount, but would that save money in the contract? That's one of the options that we're going to be kicking around with you all during budget season here shortly.
Okay. Great.
Counselor, sorry, Mayor.
Since you
Doing
brought
great.
that up, sorry, yeah. So we're going to be making that decision by budget time?
It'll be part of our budget discussions,
Okay.
whether or not we would include or ask for 2 full-time equivalents to cover our janitorial.
Okay. So that discussion, so I guess what you're saying, because you're planning on extending it until December, so that
Yeah.
discussion, you still wouldn't have enough information to make a decision before the beginning of the fiscal year.
Well, because even if sorry for jumping in.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Because once we math this out, if that's the decision that we'd like to create FTEs, that we couldn't even start to recruit until July.
Right.
And then you're talking about, a period of several months to recruit those folks, get those folks trained up. So this just buys us time. We could kill the contract earlier if we wanted to.
Okay, so you can't terminate early.
Yeah, but we just want to give ourselves leeway because
Okay.
we don't know how well the recruit, if we went that way,
Yeah.
and that's a big if, right? Because we have to math that out first. We want to make sure we have plenty of time to go that, get everything done,
Answer.
right? So, yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone want to make a motion?
You got it?
Yeah.
Go for it, Councilwoman.
I move to approve ordinance 1663, authorizing the interim city administrator to extend by 9 months the contract with MSNW Group LLC in the amount of $113,760 for the remainder of the year for custodial services for the City of Canby to a second reading on March 4th, 2026.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor. Motion's been made by Counselor Waterman, second by Counselor Patton to approve ordinance number 1663, authorizing the interim city administrator to extend by 9 months the contract with MSNW Group LLC in the amount of $113,760 for the remainder of the year for custodial services for the City of Canby to a second reading on March 4th of 2026. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes 5-0. Item C this evening, under ordinances and resolutions, is ordinance 1664, an ordinance approving interim city administrator to enter an agreement with Pump Tech to purchase the diesel engine trailer in the amount of $59,690 in its first reading. And I think, Mr. Ely, you were taking that one.
I think so, yeah. Standing in for Patrick tonight. So this, if you have any questions, feel free, but just a broad overview. If you haven't been down to the wastewater treatment plant lately, you're happy to set up a tour. It's a fascinating process, and they keep it perfectly manicured down there. So this piece, just very high level, is a pump. It's a backup pump. So if there was an issue with our primary raw pump at the plant, this pump would move the wastewater into the treatment system, if that makes sense. It's just full stop. That's high level what we're doing here, buying an emergency backup pump.
So this is for power outages and just if the main pump fails.
That's right.
Okay. Got to be able to move that sludge along.
It is a requirement under our with DEQ, under our NPDES permit, to have redundancy. So we see this as a critical buy.
Great, thank you. Yes, Councilor Patton.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 1664, an ordinance authorizing interim city administrator to execute a contract with Pump Tech to purchase a diesel engine pump trailer in the amount of $59,690 to a second reading on March 4th, 2026.
Thank you.
Second.
Was that you, Councilor Waterman? Thank you. A motion has been made by Councilor Patton and seconded by Councilor Waterman to approve ordinance number 1664, an ordinance approving interim city administrator to execute a contract with Pump Tech to purchase the diesel engine pump trailer in the amount of $59,690 to a second reading on March 4th of 2026. Any further discussion? Yes, Councilor Stearns.
Did you see the amount? It's 59,000?
Yes, sir.
It's over my authority, yeah.
Oh, I know, but here we have a 57,690.
Oh, thank you for catching that.
On the invoice.
In the script?
And I was just curious about the difference between the two.
Yeah, in this, sorry, the script has got 57,000.
And the invoice you have quoted says the 59 is only if you're buying it on a credit card.
Well, our credit card's got a big limit.
Okay.
And
Randy wants all those frequent flyer miles.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilor Patton.
So if that's the case, and it's the 59,000 if it's purchased on a credit card, and so that's the maximum amount that it could possibly be?
We wouldn't do this on a credit card, so.
So then I guess
The 57.
I will amend my motion to change the amount to $57,690.
Is that what's on, is that the invoice is 57?
Yeah.
The quote says, yeah. that-
Okay.
I mean, at least
You
on our.
could call it not to exceed the 59, just in
That's
just
kinda
in
what I
case
was
there's
thinking, but-
any possibility that it would be more than the 57, but not more than the 59, you could not say not to exceed the 59 amount.
gotcha.
And that would allow for some wiggle room. If
I was
needed.
just curious about the two different numbers.
No, that's a good catch. Thank you.
Then if that's the case, I retract my amendment to the motion to leave it as is.
Thank you.
So, but you want to add the words not to exceed?
If it comes in under, I mean, fine, I amended to add the verbiage not to exceed the original amount that I had said.
Okay, great.
We'll be back for the second reading, and I'll confirm.
Thank you.
Before that.
And Councilor Waterman, you're good seconding the amended version? Okay. So, motion has been amended to not exceed the $59,690 for a second reading on the 4th. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? Not seeing any. That passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is resolution number 1451, a resolution authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a memorandum of agreement with Willow Creek Estates Homeowners Association. And that one is also for you, Mr. Reed.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Exciting moment here tonight to have a conversation with you all about a great neighborhood in Canby, Willow Creek Estates. And the city, after several years, has been working with their homeowners association. So I'd like to invite Kara Hawkins up to help me with presenting this memorandum of understanding that the homeowner association and the city staff have cooperatively and collaboratively worked out. And she can lay a little groundwork for me at 30,000-foot why this topic is critical to the homeowners association, how this helps the city and also helps the association. There's a nice picture of the area on your screens right now of the wetland in question. And the part that's carved out is, I believe, pickleball or tennis courts.
Yep.
But you can see the creek going through. There's a protective fence, which we'll get into in a little bit later here. There's some grass area and trees that are we try to maintain with our great parks department, but the homeowner association does some maintenance as well. And so I think this agreement, principle, and memorandum of understanding sort of lays some ground rules of how the homeowner association can get in there safely, do some light maintenance themselves to keep up with it and with some of the maintenance, and then we'll get to some of the more specifics, but I'll stop there and let Kara paint a better picture of what they're experiencing, their lived experience out there.
So there's a pole fence that was placed years ago in an agreement with the city placed. We weren't asked, we didn't ask for it. We were just told that we were going to get this fence that delineates between the park areas that we maintain. They are the city's property, but we've always maintained them, mowing, keeping the flower beds, trimming the shrubs, all of that stuff. Because we were told, when the neighborhood was first established, we were told there were no resources to do that. And so if we wanted them to be park spaces, that we needed to make them park spaces, that they were like dirt clawed, dumped concrete from contractors, nasty, yeah, it was a mess. So we cleaned it all up, put in picnic tables, the whole thing. Then we got this fence, and it's been, 30 years since the fence was put in, and it's falling down. And we needed to either do some maintenance on it or have it completely taken out.
It's represented by the orange line here.
Thank you.
In your picture, that's the fence.
Right, so we started, and this was a year and a half ago, we started talking about and trying to figure out how to do it. And as we've talked, it's fallen further into disrepair and got to be where we really didn't feel like we wanted to take on that financial burden. And so then we started being concerned about protection of the wetlands and protection of the HOA's liability in regards to the wetlands. And we just felt like there should be some sort of a historical understanding between the city and the HOA to make sure that everybody's interests are protected. And the the wetlands are considered a sensitive environment, and so they are at a higher level. So, yeah, so that's where we're at. So we just wrote something up, and we met, I think, 3 or 4 times, and kind of, I think the city attorney went over it, and everybody gave their 2 cents, and we have a document that we feel pretty good about. And the last item has been liability for the contractor. And my understanding is that we were going to co-hire this contractor so that we share. I mean, the HOA isn't willing to bear liability for a contractor. He's licensed and bonded, and we feel like that any missteps on his part should be his liability. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, that would be a compromise, and per legal counsel, that would be adopting option 2 in your staff report, where we recognize that the homeowners association is not held responsible for violations by the contractor. However, the city needs to then participate in that process is all we're asking.
And we are in the process right now of getting the documentation because we haven't done it like on a yearly basis to get his bonding and all of that certification. We feel like it's important for us to have that in hand, especially given this whole circumstance. So we are in the process of doing that as well right now. So if, when we're ready to sign this, if we wanted like rehire him, we are happy to do that.
So, yeah.
So later I'll make a friendly amendment regarding our procurement rules, which I'll just add in there a couple extra words, but go ahead if there's any questions.
Yeah, so my question, so this is just, again, determining liability and whatnot, like what's going to be the city's responsibility for, it sounds like repairs of the fence and that kind of thing?
Want to write down what you want, then we can just read it here.
Do you want to tackle that?
Well, so we may just remove the fence, just because it's pretty much an eyesore at this point, it's falling down. Spencer has said that if we bring the debris from the fence over, that they will dispose of it, and we are willing to supply the labor to do that. There's quite a bit of blackberries in the wetlands, and so in the MOU is the agreement that our contractor, I think it's from May to September, can weed eat the blackberries 5 feet in from the path. Just to keep that down and away from people's yards. Okay. We do the mowing, the weeding, the trimming of the shrubs. This fall, we had 4 plum trees that were really diseased and from the ice storm had a really hard time. And so we had those taken out at our expense. This was before we had all of this going. So we had that taken out, and then we replaced them with serviceberry trees, which are native trees. But in the agreement, it says that going forward, if there are big issues like that, that the city will take care of them. And as part of this discussion, there were 2 very large diseased trees that Steve came out and took a look at and said, yeah, they need to go. And within a couple of weeks, the fellows came and took them out and ground the stumps. And it was very good to have the safety issue addressed. And so, yeah, we want to be good partners.
Oh, for
we
sure,
realize
yeah.
We're getting the benefit of this area.
Yeah, it's been great.
No, it's a nice part of that community over there for sure. And so, and again, not to get too far off topic about just an MOU, making sure that liability rests with the contractor and not with either the HOA or with us, I think is the crux of the conversation. So, okay. Yes, Councilor Patton.
Really quickly, and this is something that was brought to my attention several months ago, or I was under the impression that one of the homeowners that backs up to this particular wetland had gotten a little ahead of themselves and had done some improvements of the wetland that they should not have. Was that mitigated, or?
The actual pictures.
So, I'm not sure I agree with the characterization of improvements. This person sprayed crossbow in the wetlands. I reported it to the state because that's where our drinking water comes from. It's important to all of us. That had nothing to do with my participation on the HOA. Sure. I just did it as a citizen, and it's public record, so and they did come out and do testing. They found 5 different chemicals that had been put in the wetlands there, and that is a big concern to me personally. Several of the board members are very environmentally conscious and really don't want this to happen. So we feel like having the weight of the city behind us in saying, this is not okay, is beneficial and maybe carries more weight with folks than what we can do on our own. Because, the reality is we as a HOA don't have a whole lot of teeth to do anything about violations like that. So we were dependent upon the city and the state. And so that's a big part of why we want, that's that piece that's in the MOU, because we wanted to make sure that you guys understood that we understand that and the importance of protecting that. And authorize any sort of chemical use in there, but yes, we've had.
Okay, great.
Cool. All right. Any other comments, questions for? Okay.
I'm told that, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
in the now therefore be it resolved, item number 1 clause, it says that if it's approved substantially as the same form as the MOU attached, then we're good. So we don't need to amend our motion for number 2, which is at this point staff recommendation.
Okay.
So the motion stands as written?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Davis.
I move to adopt resolution number 1451, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to execute a memorandum of agreement with the Willow Creek Estates Homeowners Association.
Second.
Thank you, Council President.
Sorry, if I could interject, did the motion identify which of the 2 options?
The motion was for option 2.
Okay, thanks.
As the recommended staff motion that's in our packet.
Well, the proposed motion is different from option 2. So where it says options 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
That wording is different than the proposed motion. So I don't know whether you have to read.
How about I'll change the motion.
Okay.
Okay. I move to adopt resolution 1451, a resolution authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a memorandum of agreement with Willow Creek Homeowners Association and to include option 2 in the staff report.
I'll second it again.
Okay.
Thank you. Good.
Perfect. Any other discussion or question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that carries 5-0. Great. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Kara.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Kara. Next on the agenda, item 10, we do not have any public hearings this evening. We're going to move into item 11, other business, and it's a continuation of our Parks SDC discussion. So City Council last week had a work session on SDC charges, and we're looking at just the different things that go into the SDC charges, if there's cost changes that need to be made, and that was part of upcoming, or that was a debate and conversation. The biggest one was looking at our Parks SDCs, which we've broken out from the last week to continue into this week to have that conversation. Did I leave anything out, Randy and Don?
You got it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
And Don and I worked really hard on his opening together, his opening talking points. So I'm going to defer to Don from this point forward, and And go ahead, Don.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. We also have Todd Chase from FCS on, who's our consultant online as well for this. I wanted to give a brief overview. We're going to try to really focus heavily on the list, the Parks SDC list tonight. There may be opportunities for more discussion on some of the other items as well, but that is the focus tonight. So just in context, we did talk last time about looking at the 20-year Parks Master Plan list and coming tonight to discuss prioritization of that list and possible reductions. Just a parallel to that, we did meet with Parks and Recreation Advisory Group last night as well. That discussion was to review and make recommendations for prioritization and reductions, and they dove right into that discussion. We're not providing that the commentary in detail tonight, but we can give a summation of where, if you all would like to have that, about which projects they thought could be, yes, Councilor Davis?
Thank you. Thanks, Don. I understand the city administrator does have those notes from the meeting last night, and I would like to have that entered in tonight.
Sure, that sounds great, yeah. And so if I could just give a brief overview of, he'll go through those details, and then I was hoping to, as we have time, to talk about some of the other residual items from the last discussion, which is the 3 to 5 year phase-in of the SDCs, and looking at the tiered single-family square footage charges based on home size. And there was also some discussion by council last time about residential exemption criteria. Those are also secondary to tonight's purpose of discussion. And just before Randy, our administrator, goes through the list, Councilor Davis, did want to mention we will be going back to Parks and Recreation Advisory Group on March 17 with your input, and then married on top of what they are already suggesting for that. We will also be looking at the 2022 Parks implementation plan that was to look at the comparison between that and the list that we have together. They're generally consistent. There are a few projects that, and they're not really projects per se on the 2022 implementation plan. Many of those things were aspirational. They were explore, look at master planning, those kinds of things, and that was much less granular. The implementation plan is more of a roadmap than it is a precision development kind of thing.
Yeah, sorry to keep interrupting,
yeah, yes.
Don. You're talking the implementation plan, and the name of it is the Park Master Plan that was put together. Is that what you're referring to?
So there was, Councilor Davis, there was a session with council, as I understand it, and it went to the mayor and city council on October 19, 2022. And there was and we have, I believe, the handouts for that.
It's in your binder. When you open your binder.
Yeah. And
this memo he's referencing is right inside when you open your binders.
Right, but the Park Master Plan, just to clarify, was adopted by the city council.
It absolutely wasn't, and I believe the implementation plan was as well, which was intended to be a further refinement of the list of park projects. However, it was really more, like I said, it was more broad brush than the list that we're now looking at for SDCs, which is quite specific.
Thank you.
So with that,
a lot of paper.
I'll turn it back over to
Yeah,
Randy.
I think we would really want to get, you've got the slide deck, you had it well in advance. Thank you for all doing your homework, and we're here for robust discussion. Todd is here. We do not have to walk through this. We could just entertain questions and we can be nimble and flip to different pages in the slide deck as you work through this. As you know, what we're trying to do here is maybe potentially land the plane, and we have a runway. So we have a public hearing coming up in a couple months, or May
6th is the target, yes.
So we're working back from that. We're going to go back to the Parks and Rec Committee. You will ultimately decide how you want to phase these in. It could be like a 3 to 5 year ramp. That's one of the choices that you looked at last time you met. You can parse this out in different tiers for smaller homes versus larger homes. So it's a smaller SDC for smaller square footage, and we could do 4 or 5 tiers. So you're looking at those two things in the background while you navigate this list, which will drive the ultimate price of the system development charge. So the more we truncate overlapping projects, or maybe take some out that are already budgeted for, that we're working on, which we're gonna have that exercise tonight, that'll drive down the ultimate cost of to develop in Canby for the Parks SDC. And I think I'll just kind of leave it at that, because we want feedback from you all for the next hour. Okay.
Great. Councilor Davis.
Thank you. And just so that the other counselors, we have some new counselors that haven't or weren't here when the park master plan was implemented. And so I ask you to look on page 115 under the goals and objectives of the park master plan and consider those. There's goals in there that would specifically address some of these projects. And I don't think that these were taken into consideration when the list was established as far as the, under the Park Master Plan 115, Jason.
115, okay.
115.
What am I doing here? Okay, got it.
There's goals and objectives that have been set in there. Now, some of them will not have an effect on what we're doing tonight, but there are some that do have an effect on what we're doing or considering tonight. The second question I have is, have we approved any of the other STCs yet, transportation or anything at this point?
No, it's going to be one large package, and that's all moving forward together at once. So it'll be storm, sewer, transportation, and parks would be all together.
And those all combined would put the cost on when somebody comes in to build a new building?
They do, and so the only way to really soften that blow is to either reduce the list by consolidating maybe some redundancies and or reduce the price tag for each item to bring that down. That's really the only thing that we can control here on our end of things. I think the transportation system plan piece of that is pretty objective kind of thing. It's not really qualitative in the sense it's you know, health and safety issues. We're talking about level of service specifically measured on roadways. So it is a bit easier to quantify that. Parks is a little bit more qualitative versus quantitative. So it's a bit more subjective on that piece of it. I did want to, on the slides here, in terms of like a metric and getting to that, and Todd Chase can go into this a bit more, but there is a general metric in transportation and SDCs for all SDCs combined, which is the general rule of thumb is it should be no more than 8% of the base cost of a home. And there's a metric, and I can go to that slide, that if that's okay. I want to go to this slide first. And this, again, gives kind of a perspective here about where are we at now. So you can see on the top, Canby existing SDCs right now is 3.8% of the home price of a home. And so you look at the bottom, and without any adjustment to this list that we were looking at previously, it's 8.2%, which is pretty hefty. That would be the highest in the entire state of Oregon. And so it's definitely higher than anything in the metro area. And again, this is some parameters. Todd can speak a bit more about where this information came from, but I believe it's been economically tested. And so there's a tolerance level where you get to a certain point and development just doesn't happen because it's just too expensive. And thus both the cost element here is important, and I think the phasing element is important as well. Those two kind of run parallel to them with this. And I think those are really the pieces that we have to work with. Obviously, we want a vision, and we gave the direction initially to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Group to dream big. We were believing that we were high on our estimate on per acre cost of land, and we were not high, we were low, because we had appraisals done, and they're quite a bit more than what we were even thinking per acre to charge. So everything's gone up, and so that becomes kind of this new reality. We knew we'd be changing this pretty dramatically, but we didn't realize that we were suddenly at the level we were. And this is, just the evolution of the process that we were going through here.
Thanks, Don. Staff rests. We'd love to entertain questions. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Waterman.
So your recommendation is to go from 8% to the 5, or around 8% to the 5%?
That would be one way of handling that. I mean, I think whatever we can do now, and just as an order of magnitude, because our consultant actually did back up a napkin from last night's meeting at Parks and Rec.
Okay.
And it's about 7.8% with the reductions they made. But I would say 5% would be better than 8, but it should be no more than 8.
To reach that 5%, what would the cost estimate reduction be necessary? How much money would have to come off of that to reach that 5%?
Todd, do you have a quick, just a thought on that?
Well, the 5.2% is based on that 3-year phase-in, with the first year just being frozen for that one time period. As we get up to the larger number on the bottom. So what the objective of the SDC update really is to identify kind of a maximum legally defensible charge the city could charge. And a lot of cities don't charge the maximum. They, as Don mentioned, they can phase it in. They can decide not to charge 100% of the park's maximum. They can just keep it at 50% as a council decision, or they could try to phase it into the 100% level. So, you can kind of see in this chart, the total STC fees at the full maximum, the way it's calculated now, for Canby would go from $25,923 to $56,111. And this includes water, which is not a city charge. So it's really out of your control there. But the other fees you do control.
Right. So I think, but what we're trying to do here is we're being asked to remove something off of here. We need to know how much do we need to actually remove to meet that or to go above it. So we need to know if we're going to remove the top number one and it's $20 million, does that meet 5%? Or do we have to, how much do we have to remove in order to reach that 5%?
Fair question.
Great question.
The input from the committee, the Parks Advisory Committee, took the total project cost for the SDCs down from 168 million to 150 million. So they took off, 18 million. 18 million. And that bumped the fee per unit down by $2,550.
And the metric, Todd, was at 7.8% at that, that was suggested.
That's what you had, 7.8% at the max.
After they remove those?
So, yes.
So
that really helped.
So if that took it, so what did that start at then?
Started at 169 million, I believe.
The percentage?
It was
8.2.
So it only went down 0.5% by taking off?
No, it went down from 8.2 to 7.8.
8.2 to 7.8?
Yes.
About 2,500 per dwelling unit on average.
We're having a hard time picking you up, Todd.
And that was how much? How many million?
So that was about 18 million that was reduced.
So 18 million didn't get us even a half of a percent. So in order to get to around 5 or even 6, we'd have to lop off about another $40-50 million.
And the metric here, I mean, it could be somewhere in between 5 and 8. And again, we don't have an exact recommendation here. This is why council's
But the maximum to reach that would be that. So we can
exactly. Like, the scenarios are that one would be, what we get in reduction. Now, let's say we get down to 7 and then we phase it in over time, which maybe that's over a 5-year period, which softens that. Or do we go to a point where we make it a bit less, and how much cutting does that mean, or consolidation does that mean? And we haven't really quite done that exercise yet. So I know you're asking a great question about what do we need to get there, and that's dead on. That as a metric, that's one piece of this. Is ultimately it's a judgment call between 5 and 8.
Yes, Councilor Davis.
Don, on page 4 of the projects, under the cost estimate, where did those estimates come from?
The estimates, we got the land value from appraisals, which were done on those park acquisition pieces. The other estimates, they're rough estimates that we work with Public Works, Planning and Public Works. They're guesstimates. These are not necessarily like an architectural bid estimate, but they're broad brush estimates. They are not like something we've done a lot of detail analysis on, but I think they're in the ballpark.
Yeah, well, that's where the Park and Rec Committee last night was kind of shocked by some of the numbers, like Wade Park, at, is that 9 million?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, and the master plan just spotted out that we should do a study on Wade Park. And that's kind of what my concern is, not addressing the master plan on some of these things too, because $9 million seems like an awful lot of money for what we need to do at Wade Park. We don't even know what needs to be done there yet, because the master plan called out doing a study to find out what needed to be done and to receive public input. So, that's one definitely that the Park and Rec Committee recommended we bring down, and I think we could even bring that down further by just addressing that we need to do a study to find out what needs to be done at Wade Park.
Yes, so noted.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And it's been a while since we've dealt with this Parks Master Plan. Could you jog my memory, how many years does the Parks Master Plan look at? Is it 20 years, 10 years?
It's 20, I believe, as well.
20
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's essentially a couple of years behind this, because this is already underway by a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So these two documents are going to essentially be 2 or 3 years apart, out of sync, right? Okay, I just wanted to confirm that. And then I guess what I will say is I just went through these pages from 115 on. And a lot of these things, there's quite a few things in here in the parks master plan that are called out in this document. There are some, like the disc golf course is in here, but not mentioned in here.
Right.
Like changes to Eco Park and Timber Park and Redwood Landing and 19th Avenue Loop and some of these here. Are these projects that have to be, pardon me, in this plan in order for us to spend money on them? Or I was under the impression that essentially this document would kind of get folded into this document here for the final review, and that's when all that would marry up. Is that an incorrect understanding?
There are prioritizations, and so we have the implementation plan for parks, which is the 2022 plan, and this is a further refinement per se of that plan. However, both the parks implementation plan and this system development charge list are both priorities. I think it's going to be one of these items that we're going to have to narrow down the system development eligible projects as the highest priorities. Maybe there's high, medium, and low, but I don't believe it'll be possible to include everything in that parks master plan on an SDC list, or we're going to have this number above 8%.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of what I was getting at, because some of these things sound like updates and stuff. So like updating the disc golf course is probably something that we could carve out money from somewhere else to fund that, rather than baking it into this SDC plan. Is kind of the read that I'm getting from this.
Right, and that's, I think, the verbiage, right? We're updating an existing park. SDCs are not used for that. That would not be eligible
for this.
In this document.
Exactly.
It's in our binder document, because that's something, again, we've talked about doing.
Correct. Okay, so essentially, the money for many of these projects that are listed in here but not in here, in some cases, can't actually be listed in this document.
There's, in some cases, there's not enough definition, as Councilor Davis is talking about master planning, and there's visioning, there's a lot of statements about that. There's not as much granular stuff in the master plan about complete, that word like complete a project or of that, which is what we're now at that level on these SDCs. This is essentially the list. But again, even within the SDC list, it's not clear as to what high, medium, and low is. I mean, it's all kind of one bucket, really. I mean,
Okay.
but it made the list. I think the challenge here is to make the list, but the realization is, let's say next year, something else comes up, we can readopt the list. We could do that every year.
So that was gonna be my next question,
Yeah.
is just because we set this list now, it doesn't mean we're locked into this list forever. So if like, if someone rolls into rolls into the chamber with a wheelbarrow full of cash and says, put it towards building this thing, that we could say, oh, great, now we've got most of the money to do this and we can use like a couple $1 million of SDCs to finish building the sports complex or whatever. And then there's a process for updating this that isn't like we do it in a meeting or two, but there is a way of changing this as we move forward, correct?
There absolutely is, yeah.
Okay.
And so, I mean, maybe that takes a bit of this out, and I think, it's great, there's a lot of energy behind doing parks in Canby, and I love that. I think the challenge is really that narrowing down the SDC list, but recognizing that list still doesn't mean that other projects are not important as well. Okay. That's really the message I'm trying to convey. We're not wiping out the years of work on the Parks Master Plan by this SDC list. That is not at all what's happening here. But there's an importance of being able to justify the amount and to also make sure that it's not so high that we're not going to have any development, and therefore we'd have no collection of SDCs whatsoever. Okay. And we probably would also be legally challenged on it as well, which would make this even more difficult, which is happening. Barry Elsner Hammond is actually this year has had to defend a jurisdiction on SDCs. So just letting you know, there's some realities to this.
Sure. Yeah. And I guess just one last thing, I have done some homework about priorities and stuff, so I'll let you folks do your thing, and then I'll weigh in a little bit when you're ready.
So, Don, I think you hit on a key point here. Again, the list is about justifying why we are charging the SDCs that we are charging. Because at the end of the day, like I know Mr. Ely and I received an email from a developer, about the concerns on the SDCs, and again, like we've got to be able to back up the reason why we're charging. If we're going to lead the state in SDC charges, there's got to be a reason for it. And I agree with you. And does that stifle? I'll go back to our last meeting last week. Does that stifle development, or does it or does it stifle development that we want to see? Again, to attract families to Canby to use some of these parks that we're talking about here, and whatnot. So I think that, again, going back, the key phrase was it's to justify why we're charging what we're charging. Councilor Davis and then Councilor Stearns.
Thank you, Mayor. For the rest of the council, if you'd look at the Park and Rec Committee's recommendation and priorities, and maybe ask the city administrator to cover those and see if we can come to an agreement that the recommendations from Park and Rec would be taken off the, reduced out of that priority list. Yeah. Randy, did you want to cover those?
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Davis.
Before you go that route, Councilor Stearns, did you have a question before we go through that list?
Yeah, this kind of goes to the policy of the issue. A couple of policy questions I think need to be thought about. Currently, and I was on the phone with you today, Randy, you said about 17 million right now is in the piggy bank from the SDCs?
Yes, I have another handout here for you.
Okay.
Ooh, lots of paper tonight.
Yeah, I know, I can't keep it all.
We're going,
and so
going old school.
That money has not been spent because we don't have, partially for part reason, because we don't have the operating budget to run the new stuff that we might want to build with it, right?
I'll
Kind of high level, you know?
Yeah, high level, Counselor. This handout I just sent is a roll-up from our balance sheet, January 31, last month. So 60% of our fiscal year has elapsed. This comes from our fantastic finance department, who's our directors here. This shows that we have 15.9 in SDCs in our combined cash fund. What's nice about this handout is it just FYI, it breaks out which different SDCs and how much. So you've got storm reimbursement and improvement, sewer reimbursement and improvement, parks improvement, no reimbursement yet. And I'm getting way down in the weeds here, but you can just see how they're broken out. When we had that discussion during Budget Committee, Counselor, about our $30 million in capital projects that are in this year's budget that we're trying to move forward on, like Walnut that we just discussed tonight. But there are other projects like Maple and the ones that are on this list as well, which we can get to because words matter. Some of those are in fact on this list that we're discussing with you, maybe taking off because they're already budgeted for. Anyway, I digress. This is the SDC list. And we are trying to move more and more of that capital forward to finish those projects and get on to new projects with these SDCs. And the new ones that will come in, Councilor Stearns, that when you pass this, there'll be new SDCs for new projects that we can move forward. So
we do, but the point, we have almost $16 million
yeah,
in unused SDCs. And so one of the things I'm getting at, if all of a sudden we just said, okay, now we'll get the Cadillac plan for parks and everything, and are we going to be able to actually spend that kind of money on new park facilities and stuff that without having money to run those particular parks? Because I understand we have a lot of undeveloped park land space that, and just talking with constituents, even this Auburn Farm ones, they're like, I moved here and my kids grew up and no longer need it. But I moved there because they said the park would be built, and now my kids are grown, and finally it started. And I heard that from more than one person there. They're like, it's so great it's finally happening, but we moved there.
The kids are gone.
With the expectations of my little kids would play in that park. And I'm wondering one of the big reasons, my understanding is that we spent a while time to get that developed, is because we lacked the operating funds to run it. And so if we suddenly have this big, huge piggy bank full of money for new projects, we have to either, one, find a way to run the thing we're going to put in, and that might strain other aspects of the budget, and it might just be very tempting to say, let's build something that we can't afford to run. So that's one of my concerns. Kind of a high level thing. The other thing that I am concerned a little bit about is, so if I want to go build a house and you're going to charge me $56,000 for some parks and for some streets and some other things that I'm going to pay for, which is in theory fine, but I'm wondering if some of these giant projects that we have here, the $50 million projects, which just seems to be two of them in there, might be better off, might not be something that I'm interested in my little community to do. It might be what I would consider special projects, and the special projects probably should be financed in a special way rather than everybody put it in there. So that's a policy thing. The third thing is, these are the fees that we control, right? So if we say we're going up to the Cadillac plan, $56,000, well, isn't Canby Utility going to say, well, if they got their raise, can we get ours as well? And so we're going all of a sudden higher than even the $56,000 per per house easily when the other entities, fire and other people that contribute, that get their STCs, want to say, hey, look what they got, and all of a sudden we're not only the highest in the state, but we're the highest by a long ways. So those are some of my concerns I have with this proposed plan, that we basically could either say, have a revolt against, SDC fees so that all the other entities don't get their extra money, or unless they're perfectly happy where they are, but I know not everybody wants a little bit more. We're going to, so we got to watch out we don't squeeze out the other entities.
I would just add that, Counselor, I've heard a lot, I know words matter, and I've heard a lot of talk about being the highest in the state. I have never heard one of you come to me saying we want to be the highest in the state. So if people are listening, I want to be very clear, especially with the development community, that that's not staff's intention. We're here to, in fact, maybe consider a little bit of the opposite of that notion by truncating this list. In our opinion as staff, you're the leaders, you're the policymakers, you'll make that decision, but thank you for framing that up. Mayor?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know if you had anything to add on to Councilor Stearns.
You've done a great job.
Okay.
And so, shall we go through this list here?
I'd like to, if we could go back to having Randy cover with the Park and Rec Committee.
Yep,
yeah, and speaking on behalf of the Parks and Rec Committee last night, they wanted to make sure that we didn't lose all those great voices that you had when you built this Parks and Rec Master Plan that you have in front of you. So just a nod to them and a nod to you to make sure that we're continuing to pull on that thread that many community voices built this. So no disrespect to that process, and that's what we're trying to carry forward. On the list, there was a certain amount of conversation about some of these seem fairly repetitive. So you'll note that numbers 1, 4, and 8 possibly reference not only school district land, but recreation center, land acquisition, different types of athletic complex. So can that all be truncated and consolidated into one sort of category that we could put those numbers together and maybe pick, a smaller number that's reflected in this. I'll just point that out as the first bullet. The second was Waite Park, and really a ton of sensitivity, of course, around the crown jewel of Canby and the living room of Canby, not to dismiss that there might need to be some maintenance that, but certainly not to the level of $9 million in the opinion of the committee. So maybe it was recommended, and Councilor Davis brought this up, do a small study, work with the community about what types of improvements, whether it's just refreshing the bathrooms, maybe refreshing some of the playground equipment, but certainly a lot of respect and paid towards the tree canopy and Waite Park. So we just, the committee said, hey, how about $2 million instead of 9 in that to help keep the SDC costs down. Number 3, the Honda pits, which are up by the police station, a lot of open land. Its barrier is, from a safety perspective, is the train. So there's been a number of projects that I understand through the years have been not put forward because of that safety barrier. But possibly, again, with that number, we understand that there might be some interest in a pedal park, which is sort of a hybrid of bike and skateboard park that the city of Sandy, Oregon recently, that you all have visited, for about $1 million or 1.5 million. So again, there's a high number in here for Honda Pitts Action Sports Park, pedal park for $6 million. Maybe that could be truncated down to a couple million to help get the overall SDC price a little lower. So that was the thought process there last night. We wanted to really attack this notion that some of these projects on here are about to be completed that are already in our SDC budget and accounted for, and maybe perhaps they can be removed and checked off from the list that they're done. So Auburn Farms fell into that category. I understand that there was comments made last night when we were there about the Ivy Street pedestrian bridge. Some of the members of the committee really had a certain amount of skepticism that that project could ever be completed. So maybe put that on the back burner versus on a priority list. And again, these are just suggestions that kick around, and we are going to go back to parks later in March as part of a check-in, but this is good visibility for you all to see what they talked about last night. Delete Project 10, that would be the former adult center, Canby Adult Center. So a lot to unpack there. We have, as you know, the school district owns that property. It's your facility, and the adult center is moving out. So there could be some horse trading here with the school district if they need it to run an operation or use it for, I don't know, I'll just throw out like daycare. I'm making this up. I'm not speaking for the school district. Perhaps there's some trade we can do with our own lease, the swim center. That's up to you. It's a policy decision. Maybe, that could cover our lease costs and buy down that. So I know I haven't had any official talks with any of you about what to do with the adult center, but that topic came up as a sort of a lower priority that the council needs to resolve from an SDC perspective. I don't see a lot of interest in adding money into renovating that building from the council. At least I haven't heard that yet. So that was why we parked it at potentially removing that. Ivy Ridge, we've talked to that community. They're really interested in some sidewalks. So we think we can get that done, and some little minor improvements in Ivy Ridge as per the recommendation of the neighborhood. And that could be for a lower price that's estimated here. 15 and 16, just consolidating those two. It's $5.5 million on this list for some trail improvements, land acquisition, and facilities. There was some talk about restrooms. Eco Park would be nice, and some parking, additional parking for the broad term of logging road trail improvements, and that could possibly be a lower number than the $5.5 million that's listed here. And then lastly, the Molalla River Canby utility property, which is 67 acres. That's where the Canby Utilities intake is from the Molalla River right now. And as you know, it's heavily treed and canopied. It is FEMA flood zone, I understand, but could be potential opportunity for trails for Canby, but it wasn't a real high priority from the Parks and Rec Committee. And I will stop there. Did I cover?
You did a great job.
Thank you.
All right.
So I guess, is there any concern about?
Yes, Councilor Waterman, what do you got?
I think honestly, a lot of my personal notes kind of almost match the Parks and Recs recommendations. Oh, now my computer locked. Sorry. So my other question was the Walnut Street Dog Park. Isn't that already budgeted? That dog park was budgeted before, so I'm not sure why this would need to be on this list.
There's 500,000 in this year's budget and 500,000 in next year's budget.
Right, but I don't see why it needs to be on this.
It shouldn't have to be on
list, right? So that should come off too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's budgeted.
If we're following that same logic that we've set up, correct, Counselor?
Right. Okay, so that could come off. And then, yeah, and everything else pretty much, I think it really matches my notes. My other question was, just to clarify, just because it's not on this list, doesn't mean that in the future we can't spend SDC money on a project. Is that correct?
To spend STC money, it doesn't need to be targeted on this list.
So in the next
but-
20 years, whatever's,
Yeah.
if it's not on this list, we can't use SDC money on it.
That's correct, but it
Okay.
doesn't mean it's
I wanted to
not, that does not mean that other priorities cannot be put, you can change the list, and it doesn't mean that the other things that perhaps are not on this list are still not priorities.
So 10 years from now, we can put something else on the list.
Yes.
And then spend SDC money on it.
You could, but it needs, the connectional point, it needs to be project specific because it's being paid for out of these buckets, and there's a mathematical formula that has to be justified to charge developers for what that is.
Okay. That's all I have.
So could we, Don, can we just expand this list and lower the dollar amounts to include everything that we ever hope and dream to create in the city of Canby?
I mean, that's another option to.
I mean, even if it's great, it's $1 million per project and we get to that, at least there's money there. And if we use it or we decide to allocate it to a different project on the list, I mean.
Yep. That's a good idea.
I have them every once in a while.
It's another way to do it, with the notion that, again, not having a specific here, but there's a general fund obligation likely depending on the reimbursable amount that's, so there, again, I think it's a good idea. I'm just making that note that, that would spread the money, but it might not solve it if there's not enough general fund money to back it up.
Okay. There's always that general fund caveat.
Ken.
Yes, Councilor Stearns, go ahead.
One more question I asked kind of last week, but I'd like to explore a little bit more. If I recall correctly from last week's conversation, the SDCs are indexed somewhat to some sort of inflationary index. However, it would seem like from the conversation that index was not sufficient or wasn't a good index, because it didn't adequately reflect the costs going up the way they are. And so I'm wondering if there's a way to fix this iteration so that rising costs for projects can be factored in without just saying in, say, 5 years, oops, now what we passed 5 years ago wasn't adequate for what the new facts on the ground are. Because I think as a policy, having a plan that doesn't reflect the certainty that prices will go up is going to be flawed and have to be revisited.
Mayor, can I bring in Todd? Todd, I don't want to throw you on the spot here, but you've done a ton of STC projects in other cities. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this calibration, you should do calibration about every 5 years, generally. Shouldn't wait 10 years because the construction prices change, the land costs change.
Yeah.
And your growth forecast change. So that's good practice.
So you're saying that, if I understand this right, just to be a little critical, you're saying that whatever we pass today will not keep up with inflation?
Review every
Almost
5
certainly.
years.
Almost certainly. So there's no way to bake in the plan something that will keep the cost of.
There is, I think you're correct, and because there is an engineering index that we're using to do the inflationary index. It's not just, we are not creating that. It's coming from other sources, and I think to Todd's point, if you're 13 to 16 years away from your initial STCs, which is what we're talking about 13 to 16 years ago for transportation and parks, that the inflationary rate obviously did exceed the amount that the engineering index were allowed to do per year. And I understand the math that you're trying to get to, but I think the roads, for example, and just road costs, I mean, if you went back, 16 years, it would be amazing what you could afford with the budget, the dollars today. Comparison-wise.
What you're saying though is that inflationary index the engineering is flawed because it doesn't actually take into account actual costs going up. I think
it presumes you're not waiting 13 to 16 years. I think that, to Todd's point, you're really refreshing this every 5 years. Yeah.
And if I may add, that Tarleton Hill Parks and Rec is another one that we've worked on, and they've come up with an index that we use where we weight the real estate prices different than the construction costs, and we take both into account every year. And so if we know that, 30% of your parks costs are related to land and 70% to construction, we would have a different factor for land costs and a different factor for construction. And we'd adjust your SDC every year based on that. And that does a better job at keeping up with accurate costs.
Okay.
Thank you, Canby. We are back. Our technical difficulties are repaired. So, Councilor Patton, you left off before our feed died. You're back on, sir.
I am jazzed because I have been doing my homework and I have been crunching the numbers. I am one of the counselors that loves to use their calculator up here. And so here's what I will say. This is my recommendations and the whole 9 yards. So one of the things that stuck out to me about this whole thing was that there was a lot of money earmarked for sports fields. And if you remember correctly, back when Maple Street Park was approved and we were turfed that, what I had said was I hoped that the Parks Board would start to prioritize parks that a larger number of people in the community could use instead of turfing more land. And when I saw this, it reminded me of a quote. And so this is from a movie from the early 2000s. Hope. It is the quintessential human delusion, simultaneously the source of our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. And so I took that to heart as I went through and started hacking and whacking away at these things. So this is what I will point out. According to this list, and this is all going to change, how I looked at it was $70 million was going to be put towards athletic fields, which would be used for baseball, softball, soccer, and maybe football. And if you play those sports, congratulations, I would bust my ankle first time out of the gate, but not a lot of people do those things in the city. $46 million, and these are for the 10 priority projects. $46 million for the pool, which is something that this council for many years has been telling the community we want to prioritize and actually build an aquatic center. So to me, that was an important one.
How much did you say?
$46.25 million was earmarked towards aquatic center in this original thing. And then of that, other high priority projects, 6 projects were just general parks, both updating parks and adding new parks of $21.9 million. Then for medium projects, there were 7. One of them is use of school property, and I'm glad to see that the Parks Board cut that because over my rotting dead corpse, will I ever vote for this city to spend a dime of taxpayer money building infrastructure on land that it does not own. I will never saddle another city council or city with the burden that we have with the pool and the adult center. So there was that, gone. The Malala River Canby utility property, I also cut that because that is a huge thing. We don't even know what's going on there, so what's the point of even including that? And then that included 4 parks to be rehabbed at $7 million and new parks at $8 million. So if I took this is what stuck out to me and really kind of fired me up, was that we were wanting to spend $70 million on athletic fields, but $37 million was going to update 11 parks that many people in the community could use at half the price. So you can imagine where I was going with my cuts. And then even if we put in the swim center to that $30-some million, it was $84 million, which was only $10 more million than building these athletic fields that would, again, only service a few sports. So that was all of that. Now, I've taken essentially the backside of my sheet with all this information that we have now gotten is a moot point. So I'm not going to go into that. So this is what I'm going to throw out to you all as something to consider. So get your pens out and bring up this little thing here because we're going to make some notes, okay? And I want to get your thoughts on this. So I understand, I agree with many of the things that the Parks Board put out. And I went down through here and I looked at what they said, what I think is reasonable, my thoughts about the athletic complex and stuff. And these are the numbers that I am going to throw out here. For project number 1, I agree that we need to work on, and we need to keep an eye on the ball for acquiring land for parks. And so I think that that should stay in at the $20 million because there is no knowing how much that's going to cost. When it comes to number 2, the aquatic center, that wasn't necessarily called out by the Parks Board, but I think leaving that in at $45 million would make sense. For the Honda pits, I think just picking, if one says 6, another says 2, I'm more of a split it in the middle kind of guy. So I was like, maybe we put that at $3 million. For an athletic complex, while I think that it is a good idea to do this and that we need to keep the eye on the ball, so I figured $20 million as a placeholder in the plan in order to keep our eye on that. Should someone come into the council with a wheelbarrow full of cash to build it, at least we've got it in the plan and we can pivot quickly for that. So I put 20 million there. Project number 5, Maple Street Park. I kept it at $900,000 because I know there's some other stuff that they want to still do over there.
So just before you're working your list, I get it. But Maple Street Park, are we not done with Maple Street Park?
No, it's the parking lot and there's some other in the bathrooms and all that other stuff.
Nope, totally. Okay, good. I'm tracking that. That's, I know. Have we already budgeted that though?
Correct, Mayor.
So then that should come off.
So that million can come off?
That's how I would understand that.
That's how we understand it.
We have budgeted for that. We have used dedicated STC funds that we already have for that.
Okay,
We take that off of there.
So 5, cut that. So that's saving us. Now we can bump that up to 58 million. So project number 6, Wake Park improvements. I think that park needs a lot of work. And even with the master plan, that's going to take some time. So instead of cutting it from 9 to 2, I would say leave that at 5 so we have some wriggle room. Number 7, other aquatic center improvements. That is to our current one. That is a levy and all that stuff. So I say cut that completely.
Hang on though. Again, follow-up question. Is that not the improvements we're already planning and making and doing that are going to be underway here soon, or those additional?
I think this is the party room and all that stuff.
Well, no, I think these are additional. I don't think the cost of the improvements now are.
It's for above and beyond what we've already been talking about doing, that we've already budgeted for and removing. That's an add-on project. Okay.
Yeah, so 5 million for.
And I do have good staff here, so that has historical knowledge. So feel free to come up with Don if you'd like to chime in on some of these. You're more than welcome.
So are you recommending keeping the 1.2 million in for the aquatic center? I was recommending cutting it all out.
Well, I guess it depends. I mean, again, I think that's a policy or what we feel as a group, right? Like, how much more money are we going to continue to dump into
Well,
a building that's from
so here's the
the
deal. Let me go down
1970s?
through my list, and if
Okay.
there's questions, let me throw this out there, and then you guys can weigh in. So
Yeah.
I'm saying cut that completely. But as far as project number 5, I did not know that that was already budgeted for, so that can just be cut. Project number 8, which is the city, school, district property use, cut that. Community river park improvements, keep that at $2 million. Number 10, former adult center. What I had written down was in here is $3.6 million for property acquisition, but it's going to take anywhere from $1 to $1.5 million to update that building, even if we buy it. And so that's why I say cut number 10 completely.
I mean, if we buy the dirt.
I say we just cut it. Get rid of the whole thing.
So
If
demo
we
the
can
building.
buy the dirt, then that's a hurdle we're gonna jump. But I'll tell you what, I have been running into that hurdle since I was on council and Melody was the mayor, and I am tired of tripping over that frickin' hurdle. And so I want it gone. And if the school district wants to sell us the property, then you can, put that deed in front of me and I'll eat it, whatever, I don't care. I'm not gonna pay for it, but I will eat the paperwork. So I say, so that's cut the former adult center completely. Project number 11, cut that because it was determined that we've already completed that project. Project number 12, the Ivy Ridge Estates Neighborhood Park, keep that at $2 million. 13, the Walnut Street Off-Leash Dog Park, that's been paid for, and so cut that out of here. Project number 14, the Malala Canby utility property, cut that. Number 15 and 16 was recommended by the Parks Board to combine those and put those at $4 million. Sounds great to me. Put those at $4 million. Project number 17, $350,000 for Redwood Landing improvements. Keep that as is. Project number 18, the Emerald Necklace. This is something that the city has been working towards for decades, and I think we need to make sure that we keep our eyes on the prize with that, because a lot of especially out there where the new developments are going there along the Pudding River, right? Or Malala River, which one is it there over on? Malala. A lot of that was worked into those plans for those developers, and so it would be a slap in the face to them for us to then go back and say, oh, by the way, we're not doing that. We need to keep our eyes on the prize, and so keep that $8 million in there. And then $19 million, I had put it down with a question mark. The Parks Board said, go ahead and cut it. Personally, I would like to see the bridge built over to that industrial park by the Space Age and the Walgreens before we put in a pedestrian bridge. So I say cut that as well. So with that, with all those cuts, it ends up bringing the total cost of all of the projects to $109,250,000, give or take a few $100,000. You'd have to check all that math. And so that reduces the total number by almost $59 million. And I think that gets us to where we need to be. So I say, I welcome you folks to use that as a starting point to see where, if you agree with or disagree with anything that I've thrown out, and then we go from there. And that's it.
And you said that your numbers you just calculated is 59 million, it cuts 59.
Yeah, 58 point. When I just did the rough here, it came out at 58.6 million. So, it's about 59 million.
Yes, Councilor Davis.
I agree with a lot of Jason's cuts. A few recommendations was the Park and Rec recommended combining 1, 4, and 8. But I would also move that 1, 4, and 8 down to 20 million rather than the 50 million. And combine those instead of the 50 million, keep that at 20 million. Cut that down as well. The Honda pit, I really believe that we can do that for $2 million based upon, and that's a high number already. And I think, Jason, you mentioned $3 million on that or something like that for the Honda pit. And I think we can bring that down to, and keep it at the $2 million as recommended by the Park and Rec Committee. And then on number 12, Ivy Ridge Community Park, that's at $2 million. We've agreed to, they were in here already asking us to just put in the sidewalks. And I would say we've already agreed to put in the sidewalks, but to eliminate the Ivy Ridge Dog Park, or Ivy Ridge Dog Park. I got dog park on my brain tonight.
We're putting the dog park there?
Yeah. But to scratch out the $2 million for Ivy Ridge. The Emerald Necklace, I don't think that.
You're saying cut 12?
No, cut it entirely down to zero.
Oh, you're saying you want to cut it?
Ivy Ridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut it.
You want to cut it to zero?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then the Emerald Necklace, the Park and Rec had some lengthy discussions on that. We really didn't think that that's going to be achievable because of so many different variables on that, and didn't see that that was a priority to keep that going. I understand where developers are doing that, but there's the gun club, there's, land acquisition to get from the logging road over to the ferry and that whole thing. I mean, if we want to keep some money in there, a placeholder in there so that we can keep it alive, I would agree with that, but moving that down to just $2 million at this point, like we said, we can always change that in the future. And then the Ivy Ridge pedestrian, take that down to zero, as Jason recommended too. But those would be the ones that I would add.
So I just want to make sure I got my notes right. So I had recommended $40 million for the athletic
20 million.
Complex. You want to take it to 20 million?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the reason
why?
Well, I'm concerned, we got a placeholder, right? In the future, we can always change that as we move forward. But I'm not necessarily comfortable with even the goal that we're trying to hit. And the reason I say that is because I'm really a strong believer in creating affordable housing in Canby, which we don't have. And after my discussion today with the school district in regards to how badly they're hurting within their budget and stuff because of no kids coming into these developments. And there's no kids. So enrollment is way, way down for the school district. And that's because there's nothing people can buy in Canby. And these developers don't want to build affordable housing in Canby based upon the SDCs. And that's why I'm concerned about the total SDCs. And so I'm proposing trying to lower the SDCs as much as we possibly can to encourage or build incentives for developers that they don't have to pay SDCs based upon a certain amount on planned developments if they're building affordable housing. And so that's why I'm saying we need to try to keep these SDCs down as much as we possibly can so we can start. I mean, Estacada is not seeing enrollment going down, they're going up.
Dramatically
in Estacada. And the reason for that is their SDCs are a lot lower. Okay, and developers are developing in Estacada now. And we need to try to flip that switch back over to Canby so people can live in Canby and bring kids into Canby.
So just as a placeholder, so you know, based on what the cuts Jim recommended on top of what I did, is another $29 million in savings.
Okay. Other discussion items here, like?
I just wanted to agree with Jim. I think that you're going to have to make it, we can't control all the market forces that are out there, but we can control some of them. And having a lower and I know everyone's going to look at me, a lower tax on building houses, I call it a tax, it reduces the overall cost of living in Canby. Because if you have a high tax to build a house, you're going to have a much more expensive house. That much more expensive house is going to cause all the other housing prices in Canby to go up as well, or put pressure for that to happen, and makes Canby all the more unaffordable for people. And also the current fee structure says if I'm a developer, I get the maximum bang for my buck for the biggest house that I can build on that lot, which is going to attract people who are already established and have money. So I think that needs to be a very big consideration also. If anybody paid attention to the Canby Utility Board meeting last week, they currently upped, and like it's not final numbers, and so she doesn't look at me like, but the final number, but they were proposing $250 million for the water treatment plant. One of the iterations, there's some other ones that were less expensive than that, but just the chart of what our rates will go up just for water for that adds to less affordability for living in Canby. And certain costs we have to do, but we need to really keep in mind that there are other forces besides just the city of Canby that want higher prices for living in Canby. So that's why I think we should cut as much as, Jim's saying, and even more. I wouldn't mind, like maybe a placeholder for athletic, but like, if you don't play those sports, what percentage of the citizens of Canby play those sports,
Well, of the youth, and if we're declining.
But then
it's substantial.
It's substantial, yeah.
But if we come to the point that why isn't the Canby School District utilizing their land that they already have for sports facilities, and having the city basically take over what the school district was doing before, and basically the citizens of Canby get taxed twice. One for the school district so they can have their sports facilities, and then one for the city of Canby so they can have their sports facilities. I don't think it doesn't make sense to have the citizens being taxed twice for the same function, and the school board is maybe putting up a levy on the ballot soon, and that's going to raise the cost some more.
Yes, Councilor Waterman.
I agree with everybody so far that it's the right direction. I do think there's something we do need to be cognizant of and noodle on and stuff like that too, because the reason we're going through this is because we're saying our SDCs are already really, really low, too low for us, but in general, they're lower than almost everybody else around us, right?
Correct.
So if we're already losing, if people aren't moving into Canby and the builders aren't building and we're already losing students because they're not going to school because of this, but this is already happening with us already having the lowest SDCs around.
Yeah.
So that's an issue. Why? So that makes it even more doubly important to make sure that we're not going crazy and having to increase SDCs, but we also have to support ourselves, and we can't not do that. So one, why are we already having this issue with the lowest SDCs around? And then two, we need to keep focus on making sure we don't outprice ourselves even more. So I'm on board with what we're talking about tonight.
No, again, it's an interesting, you guys remember the toys as a kid, the water weenie, right? You squeeze one end, the other end blows up, right? So I look at, economics being what they are, right? So to the point, right? So if we can even go to land use policy at the state level and what it dictates what we can and can't do, or how quickly we can grow. If we want to, right, supply and demand, there's less supply, and is that what drives, again, this is all a lot of like philosophical, this is the stuff that keeps me up at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, is like, if, you know, how do you balance the growth boundary, right? We're looking at expanding our UGB, right? And so, well, does that afford us to build new housing? It does, because that's part of the plan and then part of the reasoning behind it. But what's that going to look like, and how quickly is that going to get built out? Because again, myself and mayors across the metro area, it's like, well, we can't build out, so we got to build up. And that's, I mean, the land use policies have been designed to build up, not out. And so when we're looking at houses on smaller lots, they build up, not out. That's why they're not single level ranch style homes. They're 2-level homes. You know, to your point, Paul, where we are the lowest, near the lower end of the SDC scale, but yet the market is dictating that builders can build $600,000 homes in Canby and sell them. Right? They're not doing so you want to move to Canby? Fabulous. And you have how many kids, or how many kids are you planning on having? Like, oh, okay, perfect. You can come in, we'll sell you our house. It doesn't work that way. It's like, here, I got cash. Fabulous. I'm in. Let's go. And so that's the piece, but are we not seeing the family, the families of, with 2.2 kids moving into Canby because the amenities are not there? And that's a lot of the conversation that the Parks Board has been having and pressing on, is that we just, those type of amenities that draw families to Canby are not there. And that's where a lot of this master plan and this document and what we're talking about is trying to address. So I guess that's the balancing act, right? Are we more parks and trails and wetlands, or are we trying to develop more, active recreation areas? So, Councilor Patton?
Yeah, I would just, before I chime in with some extra thoughts, I think it might be good to check in with Council President Hensley to see what her thoughts were on all of this.
And you have 8 minutes before your 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that was my next piece, so thank you. Council President Hensley, did you have any thoughts on any of this?
There's a lot that I'm absorbing with you guys' conversation of cutting this and cutting that, and I could not write fast enough to keep up with y'all. I understand the need to lower the amount that we're charging overall so that we can hopefully entice more building, but I have to be honest in thinking that I'm not confident that will work. I think the builders are going to build what they build and build how much, charge what they want for it. Unless we tie some kind of discount for SDCs for affordable housing. I'm also worried that if we cut too much for SDCs, then we're not being forward thinking enough for developing amenities. So I'm torn. I don't really have any more cuts to offer. You guys have cut a lot, and like I said, I couldn't even keep track of everything you were jotting. I was trying to jot down as fast as I could, but you know me, Mayor, I got to noodle this for a while. Sure, I'm torn.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. We are at 8:52, according to the clock on the back of the room and on Cupertino time. We still have quite a bit here I think we're discussing, and then the rest of the agenda. Is there a motion to extend till 9:30 or sooner?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll reassess at 9:20 where we're at. Okay. Yes, Councilor Patton.
So I guess I would say, here's what I'll throw out. I like where Jim's going, but again, we've done this real quick. And so I would be curious as to where different things fall into the numbers, right? So what I will throw out for people's thoughts is take the cuts that I recommended and throw them into the calculation, and then add in the cuts that Councilor Davis recommended, which by my rough calculation would be $87.6 million in cuts, which would bring the $167 million down to about $80.25 million.
and see where those fall as far as where we need to be. And similar to Counselor Waterman and the rest, I will say this. I can understand why people are going to Estacada to build, because it's cheaper there. But when is Estacada gonna have a similar problem to what we've had, that they did not pivot and update their fees, and then all of a sudden they've had a bunch of builders come in and make their money and put in all this infrastructure that starts to crumble, and now they're screwed, right? Because that's kind of why we're in the situation that we're in, right? And so I agree that we should incentivize builders to come to this city to build affordable housing. But to me, cutting these SDCs to the bones is not what's going to do that. Because I'm sorry, I'm a pessimist when it comes to this. They're going to want to make as much profit as they want. And they can say, oh, because we've heard it before, oh, you raise these fees and then we're not going to make a bunch of money, and and yet they come and they build these 600,000, 250,000 square foot homes that are 500 or like 800 to $1 million. It's like, no, this is ridiculous, right? So to me, incentivizing that is to say, you want to come in, you want to build a 250,000 square foot 2-bedroom home and the 1 bedroom's an office, then great, you're coughing up all this money. But you want to come in here and you want to build an affordable housing complex, then we're going to give you some incentives to do that by cutting these SDCs. But you're going to agree that you're not going to move the goalpost, because I know this is a sore spot, but those apartment complexes out there by Fred Meyer. When I was a lowly member of the community, I was under the impression that they were going to be affordable housing. But in the end, they weren't. And it's like, oh, well, that was a misconception on your part. BS. So if you want to come into this city and you want to build affordable housing, you're going to get breaks to do it, but you're going to be held to your nose is going to be held to the grinding stone, that's what you're actually putting in, and that they're going to be affordable for an extended period of time. You're not going to build affordable housing and then someone's going to come in and buy 20 of the 40 units because they're going to put them out as Airbnbs. This is ridiculous. So that to me is how we incentivize people building affordable housing, is to incentivize them through a reduction in the fees and then making them sign agreements that if that's not how it works, we're coming after you. That's how you do it. Similar to my theories about economic development. Yes, I am all for building things that will entice people to come into the city to patronize our businesses, but I am not for handing checks to businesses. That just doesn't work. And so, yeah, so that's where my thoughts are on all of that.
So I will throw in real quick I think, the Sequoia project, they always stated it was going to be market rate apartments. They never said low income housing.
Whatever. So
I'm just going to put that to rest. The other piece, I think, as we look here to the point, right, like in Council President Hensley, her point too of decreasing and cutting it to the bone does not look down in the future in terms of what Canby could be. And SDCs, again, it's the development side of it. We can develop every day and all day long, especially around parks, but at the end of the day, we got to take care of whatever we decide to develop. And that's another side of the coin. And I think with the housing piece, Dawn, and I think we've gone through with looking at our housing needs assessment, a lot of the policies and things we talk about our code. There's a lot in there that I think that we can be looking at, and we could probably look at from a code standpoint to help, I guess, put some of these development pieces into the box that we're talking about here for, that middle housing, or that figuring out what is that bandwidth that we can develop within, so that it's not $600,000 homes, but it's, I guess, I used to say closer to 300. Now I think I'm more at like 400, 425 is kind of that seems like the low end, or that middle low end. But so again, policy and code, I think, is another angle here as well. Yes, Councilor Davis.
You know, I don't think that we're talking about cutting to the bare bones. I don't think we've done that. I think we tried to reach to a goal of the 5.2 that was the goal for tonight, and I think we're pretty close to that. So when we say we're cutting to bare bones, I don't think we are cutting to bare bones. We're trying to be realistic and go along with the recommendations of the consultant.
So Councilor Patton suggested again, right? So we've got some numbers for Don for you to work on.
And we'll run those scenarios. Todd, I'm sure we can connect on this, but I mean, we can run those back, obviously, and that will be given to Parks and Rec Advisory Board on March 17 when we go and meet with them again, because that's the next step in this process, and explain where you all came from, what they were already suggesting to do, and then talk about the parks implementation plan as well. And, you know, are there other thoughts? Is there something missing, I guess is the question from that list. That would be the question for Parks and Rec. But I really appreciate the exercise and the discussion. This has been excellent.
So next time we can see this, Don, is going to be when?
So I think my hope, and I have not talked to Randy about this, that we would come back after Parks and Rec on the 17th and come back on March 25th. Which would be the week after, the Wednesday after the 17th. But I, again, have not even spoken with Randy about that.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure, again, that I get it right. So massage the numbers, see what the new calculation comes out to. And then the Parks Board, I guess, will make their recommendations of adding more or subtracting more, pivoting.
And I think they just want to feel a sense of comfort. I mean, I get it. I mean, there's been a lot of buildup to this, and I think part of this is, you know, I think they get the cut piece. I think they're just their concerns are, you know, are there things missing, and they feel an ownership to that and a responsibility around the fact that the Parks Master Plan was a fairly large effort for the community to bring all that together. And so that piece, I think, we'll come back and talk specifically about what that implementation plan looked like. It was a lot more visioning and master planning than it was projects. I think there's very little. There may be one project, I went through it quickly this morning. There's like one project maybe that's on there that like might be added in my view. But again, we want their input.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Is everyone good with that direction and timeline? Thank you. Where we're at?
The only thing I'd ask, Don, when you and the consultant put a draft together, if you could send that out to the council so we could see it as soon as possible so we can start massaging a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, so it sounds like you all would like for sake of definition, like the Padden plan plus the Padden and Davis plan, so to speak.
And the Park and Rec.
And the Park and Rec, yeah, okay, yeah. But you're interested in where this brings us down to first, I mean.
The three different, I'm curious as to where the three different
I think
options.
it's a great question, and I think we should give you those scenarios, like what does it look like with what you suggested, and then added on to Councilor Davis's suggestion. And
Yeah,
then,
so what I'm getting is like start with option A, which is what the Parks and Rec Board said, without any edits.
Yeah.
Then mine, which cuts more, and then Jim's, which cuts even further.
And we have the one from Park and Rec, we just don't have yours.
I'll make sure that Randy gets a picture of it or whatever.
Okay, thank you. And I think on the reduction/exemption, there can be continued discussion on that. I understand we could do this administratively, and that is not that big of a deal to do an administrative way. We are going to need a tool then anyway administratively to talk about affordable housing and what those tie-ins are into that. So I think this is a timely conversation. Probably not enough time tonight to talk through that, but just wanting to let you know I heard that.
So, Don, we will be having that discussion as we look at incentives for developers then in regards to affordable housing.
Initially, that was something I was just, trying to kind of get to the end, and we had definitely earmarked to do that. I just didn't know if it should be in this round, which it probably should be since we're updating these, or should we do it separately and have another review?
Yeah, I think separately, but I just want to make sure we do have that discussion.
Yeah, and I think, I think we can throw out what our suggestions are, and if it's a topic that needs more attention, there'll be a decision point as to do we move ahead and move forward and adopt these and then come back and revisit that issue, or do we bake it in? So that'll be, I think there's a decision point out there on that. We need to come back with a recommendation, and this is an advancement of the housing production strategy you all have agreed to in terms of principle on those topics, and I'd like to get your input on that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilor Patton.
So I would just say, as far as that point about incentives, based on what I have done with all this thing here, I think trying to bake those incentives into this plan would not make sense, because we want those to be more malleable. So understanding that we want those incentives, but to me, it would make sense that those incentives are going to be part of the code updates.
Correct.
Or an entirely different policy, which will come towards the end of us getting to the finish line with everything.
Yeah, this needs to be solidified.
Yeah, we're totally fine going that direction. I just, this is kind of splitting this up, not to get into the weeds, but like, some of this are fairly easy, like our accessory dwelling units. Most of the jurisdictions will just, they'll say yes or no, we are going to fully exempt those. And there may be a feeling about that. Other things are way more complicated, like we're all talking about, basically alluding to conservation or covenants, basically running with the land, those kinds of things. How long, is it in perpetuity? How do we guarantee perpetuity? Or is it 10 years? I mean, these are all dynamics that jurisdictions have to deal with. Okay. Yeah.
Don, and I brought this up earlier, purely just being cheeky, but, but can we just look at, like, great, how many toilets are in each house to determine, some of the SDCs for water and sewer, or versus square footage, or just flat rates, it sounds, like I said, it's kind of joking, but kind of serious at the same time.
Those are actually foundationally part of that discussion. I mean, when you're dealing with the metrics of like equivalent residential units, the sewer and storm do have those factored into them. And so there are metrics behind these equations. These seem really complicated, and it is complicated, but there is actually logic to some of this stuff, which is kind of what that gets into. What is your impact to, the public services? I don't know if we can skip the methodology process because it's baked into state law. Sure. Yeah, but I would love to be able to say it's a lot simpler.
Toilet tax.
What's that?
Toilet tax.
Individual home toilet usage fee, put little meters on there.
But
Canby Utility could come up with that, right? Like,
if that's the case, I want it based on the toilet numbers, not the size of the toilet, because I hate them tiny toilets in the hotel rooms, old hotel rooms. It's ridiculous.
And a break for a bidet, So just one more thing I'd like to, just a request that I gave to the city when we're talking about affordable housing. Yeah, I think we sort of established that Estacada is cheaper than Canby, and maybe Woodburn is cheaper than Canby, and other cities may be more expensive. I think it might be just a good use of time to maybe do a study on maybe some of the reasons why that's the case. I think I kind of know the reasons, but I might be wrong. And it might be there might be something that comes out of why one place is cheaper than another place. And so sometimes we think we all know, it's a Woodburn, but but the idea is why is Woodburn when it comes to cost per housing unit and Estacada, rather than just saying, that's Estacada. But you know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay, we love all of our neighbors equally, Councilor Stearns.
No, I'm just saying that it's good to say if we're good, what has worked for other places.
There you go.
And instead of theorizing based on
Well, we could also pick on Malala as well.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want.
But I think
Mayor-
it's obvious.
I don't want Mayor Kaiser to feel left out of our conversation this evening, because I know he'll be watching this tomorrow when he's out and about, so. Okay, are we good for now? Staff's got marching orders for next steps.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we're satisfied with the work here this evening on this particular topic? Okay, groovy.
And thank you for giving us time to talk about
Appreciate
it.
it, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to try to go through this here. Next up is mayor's business. A couple of things. So attended the, might be a follow-up question here too, Jim. We have a World War II memorial here in town, and it is at our current adult center. And so a couple weekends ago, there was the Iwo Jima Remembrance Ceremony. Myself and I think it might have been just Councilor Patton and I were there. Again, very well done event. If you haven't been a part of that, please mark your calendars. When we get the date, we'll let everyone know, but it is very much it is a somber piece when you talk about the history, and there's some really interesting stories told, and our World War II vets are getting fewer and fewer, and so definitely something to keep in mind, but definitely worth being a part of. I had the opportunity on Tuesday, it was the Lunar New Year. I was invited by the owners and managers over at Dragonberry Produce to join them for a Lunar New Year luncheon with their staff and all of the team members over there. So I want to thank them for that invitation. They are a busy company, and they are getting ready to do, I guess, building, Jamie, you're hiding, but building C, correct? I think is on deck to break ground and be done here in the next 2 years. So their expansion piece has been pretty amazing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Got to try some interesting fruits that they've been bringing in from overseas. And so, it was very educational. I enjoyed it. Amy and her brother James, and they do a great job, and they've got a great company and really taking care of their people, which is great. On the Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation, there's a lot of change going on there in terms of project planning at ODOT and with the Oregon Transportation Commission. So they're looking more at project suggestions per region versus as they, when they look at the STIP funding and STIF funding. So basically your transportation funding from the state, they're reworking how projects are submitted and looking at more regional coordination by the area commissions to set that list to present to ODOT and the Oregon Transportation Commission in terms of priorities. So that's been a big conversation. And then that dovetailed into the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, because whatever projects or whatever that so one, it's now up to the county coordinating committees to figure out, great, so out of Clackamas County, what might be the 1 or 2 projects that we push on to the greater conversation at the Area Transportation Commission. And then whatever doesn't get picked up in part of that, how does that feed into the priorities of Clackamas County? So even some of the stuff around Canby, what does that look like down the road in terms of funding and prioritization of funding as, again, Canby, Malala, Estacada, Sandy all go through the growth that we're experiencing. So it been a busy couple of meetings on that front. I also had an opportunity to talk with school board member Audrey Tron today about about the school district budget. There are budget meetings going on at various schools throughout the school district this week and next week. So please, go to one if you can. They've got a special meeting coming up on Monday. So tune into that as well. It'll be, I'm sure, worth everyone's while on that piece. And then finally, today we did a ribbon cutting for our logging trail ramp. Is that what we're calling it? Pathway. Thank you. So again, something that our urban renewal agency in conjunction with the city council really wanted to get a better access on the south side of 99 off the logging bridge. And so with a lot of planning and a lot of coordination, we finally have a pathway off the bridge, the logging trail that comes down along next to, right behind the storage company there. And so now we have access coming off that trail to get to Fred Meyer and Denny's and all the other fun areas over that way. You know, walk to pick up your car at Millar's that you dropped off early in the morning, whatever. So if you haven't checked it out, please get over there and check it out. And I did say that there's cupcakes from that event in the back. So, you know, yeah, so we've got them moving. So Mayor's State of the City address, that'll be coming up here on Friday at Rotary. I've been told that the Rotarians are real anxious to take a couple shots at the mayor. So I will that never happens with the Rotarians. I will come in my Kevlar, talk to Jose about finding some that fit me. And then the chamber luncheon in March, the first Tuesday in March, I'll be doing, again, redoing the State of the City address, but for the business community and whatnot, and for the community in general. So please come to one of those if you wish and have lunch. And let me give you an update on the year that was and what we're looking at for coming up. That's all that I've got for now. Council President Hensley, do you have anything for tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. To start off, I was going to say I spoke at the Urban Renewal Agency as chair for the grand opening. I won't go into the details because you covered the amenity very well. Traffic Safety Commission, we had some citizens come in with a couple of issues that they're going to be looking into, but I'll just kind of announce now so that citizens who may be watching can watch where they're speeding. Apparently, there's a lot of speeding going on on Northeast 3rd and 4th between Pine and Ivy in front of the fairgrounds all the way up to Ivy. So slow down, folks. It's a very narrow road. And also Redwood and Territorial. We put that stop sign in a number of months ago now, probably pushing up on a year, I'm going to say. And people are still running it. So they're going to look at some more enforcement action there. So don't run that stop sign. You're probably going to get a ticket, folks. Also, they talked about some truck route issues, and they're looking into what they can do about that. Trash cans are being put on the sidewalks in a number of neighborhoods, and so the reminder is that they need to be placed on the roadside, on the sidewalks. Canby School District is meeting Monday to discuss their $6 million shortfall and possible levy options. There'll be more to report on that after I go to that meeting Monday. What am I saying? Canby Fire meets tonight, so I obviously couldn't go to that meeting, but I will be meeting with Director Thurman in the next couple of days to get an update there. I'll bring that to the next meeting. And finally, last meeting or two ago, we talked about Senate Bill 1585. And I just wanted to report that is waiting, it's passed the committee, and it's awaiting a vote on the floor at the Senate scheduled for tomorrow. That was the grant one for small cities on infrastructure.
Thank you.
The Senate bill for recreational immunity, I know, Mayor, you and I have been talking about that one for a while with OLC conference, et cetera. That one has been moved to rules, which is a good thing because tomorrow's the deadline and Rules Committee is exempt from deadlines. So that bill will not die tomorrow. It can still be talked about until the end of session. There's a number of housing bills and transportation bills. Some are still alive and in play. About half the bills that were introduced at the beginning of the session are dead. So that's good. We've narrowed it down, because there's not much good coming out of there right now. There are 3 bills that have to do with OGEC that are still in play, and they are in the Rules Committee. They actually meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I will be catching part of that hearing because I will be down there tomorrow. And I think that wraps up all I will talk about there, because I'm only going to talk to you guys about things that pertain to city business. I'm following a number of bills, but those are the ones. The Transportation Bill 1599. was scheduled for today, it is now scheduled for tomorrow, because they didn't have a quorum today. That is all I have.
Great. Thank you, Council President Hensley. Councilor Patton.
Yes, so I also attended the Iwo Jima ceremony the other day at the Adult Center. It's always a pleasure to go to that one. It is a very, I consider it a very homespun event. It reminds me a lot of the memorial ceremonies that were held a lot in my hometown back in Andover, New York. It was a little chilly and wet. We were quite damp by the end of the event. I always enjoy the folks that put that event together. You can tell that they put their heart into it, and sometimes it goes the way they plan, and sometimes it doesn't, but in the end, it all works out, and it's just really great to see. And there actually did have a World War II veteran present. He was 100 years old. Apparently, he served on a submarine and loaded torpedoes on the sub. And I'll tell you what, if I am as spry at 100 as that gentleman was, I will count my blessings, because he was a hoot. Another thing I will just point out is I did go to the logging bridge path ribbon cutting. It was great to see that project done. One of the last that we'll be doing from Urban Renewal, so it's good that we've been able to accomplish that. And then for the Heritage and Landmarks Commission, if I can, hopefully, I promise I am not contagious. I got the flu while I was in Denver. I got it worked out of my system in Vegas, and now I am here. So I'm just draining. I apologize for my verklempt-ness. So I have a press release from that Chair Carol Palmer had asked me to read into the record for the Heritage and Landmarks Commission, so here we go. The Canby Heritage and Landmarks Commission, or HLC, is responsible for maintaining an up-to-date inventory of Canby's historic properties. Using a 2025 grant fund, in part with federal funds from the National Park Service, U.S. Department of Interior through the Oregon, we have a problem? No, through the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office, the commission contracted with Willamette Cultural Resource Associates, WCRA, to conduct surveys of 8 Canby properties, 1 church, 1 commercial property, and 6 homes. WCRA will present their findings and recommendations at a public meeting on March 2nd at 5:30 in the City Council chambers here at 222 Northeast 2nd Avenue. Per Carol Palmer, the HLC chair, this meeting is open to all Canby residents. There will be an opportunity to provide comments and to ask questions. The HLC will have handouts on subjects such as basic maintenance of historic buildings, the benefits and responsibilities of a historic landmark designation, and how to get a historic landmark designation. If you are unable to attend in person, you may attend virtually. Contact Tyler Neiser by February 27th at 503-266-7001 or NeiserT@cambyoregon.gov. And that is all I have.
Great. Thank you, sir. Councilor Davis.
I'll waive my report at a time.
Okay. Councilor Stearns.
I just want to reiterate what I mentioned earlier. Canby Utility Board met last week, and they have projections, which I know are not official, for the new water treatment plant, and they were coming in at $250 million for the top of the line, $182 million for what I think I understood were the more adequate version, and $117 million, I think, was the number I remember for just upgrading the current plant. Just to give context, originally they were saying about $82 million for the whole project. So we were talking about tripling, or at least doubling or tripling what the original estimates were. After.
Council President Hensley, you're unmuted.
Sorry.
So, and then they're talking about rates quadrupling if they have the highest plan there. So I think it's serious money, and we need to start thinking about if that's what the city of Canby needs or wants. Personally, I'm fine buying another water filter to take out the taste myself, but it's things a little bit cheaper than paying the rates that may be proposed. I know those are all preliminary, but I just wanted to bring that out to the council because I thought that's a pretty big thing.
Well, and I think it's a little bit more of a complex issue than just a Brita water filter.
Well, maybe, but but people don't like the taste of the Canby water, you know. But yes, there are other issues about capacity and stuff that are important. I don't want to make light of those, but apparently the permitting costs are very, very high. So,
okay, Councilor Waterman.
The Bike and Ped Committee, they're reviewing projects to try to coordinate with the transportation plan, going forward with that, and working with, we are now working with Ryan Potter, who's the new staff component of the safety committee. And apparently he was there before, and he's back, and they're really happy. At the library meeting, you know, one of the big things talking about next year is budget, and they did their survey of meeting the Oregon Library Association, just a bit essential standards, and coming up so far after that survey, the Canby Library is doing really great work, but they're still only meeting 87.5% of the essential standards. So there's like 3 standards, and so our goal for next year is to try to get to at least 100% of the essential standards, and what that will look like as far as budget, staffing, et cetera. So that's all I have.
Okay. Time check, 9:25. We still have our city administrator staff report. Randy, need
a couple items?
10, 15 minutes?
At the most, yeah.
Okay. Council, can we extend?
Finish it up.
Yep, I'll wrap it up.
We're good.
We'll go till 9:45.
Okay. First on your agenda, thank you, Mayor, Council, is a request to see if we could authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support for the organization Pink Sisters. They would like to try and replicate what you have done here in Canby and other cities. So they would just like to take this piece of paper and share it with other cities, and when they go and talk to their councils about rolling out a similar product. We are the only city right now, so you can be proud of that. I think we're close to 600 cartons that are recycling bins that are out there, more on order. So the CEO would just like to try and spread the good news to other communities. So if I could, I'm technically a vote of consensus to authorize the mayor to sign that letter. Okay.
Second.
Yeah.
Thank you. Secondly, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Need to vote on that.
Yeah, we do need to vote, but I have something I want to throw out there first.
Yeah.
So I think you might remember I had mentioned at the Clackamas Cities dinner meeting that I attended, there were a few other cities that came up to me and asked me about this. So I'm excited to see this coming through. And some of the things that I imagine they're going to run into are some of the hiccups we had as far as amending franchise agreements and stuff. So I don't know if it might be possible to put in here something about like, these are the things that Canby did in order to make this work within their thing. You know, if they have questions or whatever, maybe using us as a sounding board to help them without overloading staff, those sort of things.
You could put a reference to the packets for the dates on which council considered this, and the packets should have everything, and then they can also watch the videos back for reference if they want to.
Okay, I think that would be great to add to it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and we need to vote.
Sorry, so motions been made and seconded to let the mayor sign a letter for that. Support for the Pink Sisters. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, once it's drafted, I'll sign it.
Okay, thank you. This next topic, I just handed out a packet of 3 projects. Many of you were on an email that many of us got that asked, from our congressional delegation, that asked if it was basically a call for projects, that their portal's opening up at the federal level for earmarks for high priority projects. So thought we might take them up on the offer, and I was just asking tonight for consent to have the mayor sign 3 letters of support for 3 city projects that we could sort of put in the hopper. One for our library, one for our transit center project headquarters, and the other for our police department and security and IT upgrades. So we have some work to do on our end to get those numbers together and those actual lists, but the deadline is next week. So I thought I would ask if, with your permission, the mayor could sign onto a letter of support for our City of Canby projects. I will say that I've talked to Senator Drazen's office and Representative Bunch's office, and they've thankfully agreed to sign the letters of support. Our police chief has talked to the Oregon Police Chiefs Association. They're going to sign a letter of support. So Marissa's working on her library friends and networks to get letters of support for her. So all hands on deck. This is a quick sprint, and we'll see.
I'll make a motion to support the 3 letters.
Second.
Okay,
Thank you.
moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Abstention? Okay, that carries.
All right, thank you very much. Well, fingers crossed.
Okay.
I have nothing further unless there's questions from the council and mayor.
I don't have anything. Any other questions? You have a question?
Yeah, the project list or the agenda list.
Yep, you have a copy of the look ahead again?
Yes, and what I was wondering about is we voted to make sure that so on March 18th, under other business will be the city administrator recruitment, is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, an update. You asked for that, Counselor,
Yes.
and the mayor and I discussed that as well.
Okay.
Yes, Counselor Patton.
So I have a question about that. So one of the things that I had asked was looking to put on the May ballot for updating a vote to try and remove the requirement for the city administrator to live in the city. And I was told that we were worried about being too close to the deadline and so on and so forth. And then today I learned that the school district plans on putting a whole,
levy
on there for May. So if they would be able to pull together a levy by May, how can we not pull together something like this by May?
I'll defer to legal counsel. I think it's technically possible, but they did flag that there are some real quick deadlines.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, that's okay. It is possible. I think the last time the charter review subcommittee met, we talked about strategy, how many things to take to the ballot, when to take the ballot, whether to bunch or to separate out. And I believe consensus from that meeting was to work towards the November ballot. It may not be too late to switch if you want to put just one thing on the May ballot.
So just throwing that out there for people's thoughts.
And when I say one thing, it could be more than one thing, but my recommendation would be keep it extremely narrow since we would be under serious time pressure.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I agree with Jason, but with that said, we have other options too. We can extend, if we so choose, we can extend the current city administrator's contract to the end of the year to where we could have it voted on in November as well, to make sure that we do it right.
I'm just being a little feisty at the end of the hour.
Appreciate it.
Council President Hensley, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I was going to agree with Jason and add what Jim already said. That's why I took my hand back down.
Okay. Councilor Stearns.
So this field trip that we're supposed to have. At first, I thought it was going to be this Saturday.
Yeah.
And so I actually scheduled the day off of work this Saturday, but I don't know if I can schedule a day off in the middle of the week in March,
Okay.
if I don't know the date.
Tax season and all.
And now I can schedule myself back for
Yeah.
Saturday.
And I promise I'll check with each of you to find a day that works, for those that want to go.
Where is that?
I don't have to go.
Top of the list.
Oh,
It says weekday, yeah, March weekday.
March week.
Like, because some of the facilities, the tour guides didn't work on a Saturday, that was all, the thinking.
So the thing is, I would have to schedule that time and day off.
Yeah.
And it may, depends on what day it is, I may already be scheduled that day in the week.
Okay.
But I think one of the sightseeing things we were gonna go look at was in Sandy, was the pedal park. And that's, if you're free, that you can just go out there and take your bike and race the pedal park. Got some cool jumps and high curves and things like that. So, Council President Hensley and then Councilor Davis.
We've had success in the past with Maya putting out a doodle poll on available dates for the said activity, and then we all kind of say when we're available, and she picks the date that most matches.
Okay. I'll work with staff.
Councilor Davis.
Just a question for the rest of the council. We're going to have a joint meeting with the Canby Utility Board. I'd also like, with the council approval to schedule a joint meeting with the school district board. I think that, everybody's having lots of discussions with the school district board, but it should be nice to have a set agenda and for all of us to sit down with the school district board, especially in light of their current situation.
Yeah, we can, Randy and I will meet on that on Tuesday.
Okay.
Or, sorry, Monday. We moved our
Yeah,
agenda planning meetings to Monday.
Mondays.
So, yes, we will chat about that on Monday.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else on this? Randy, any other?
I'll be out of pocket tomorrow. Doing some mock interviews with the kids at the Canby School District. So looking forward to that. And
It's fun.
You've done it before?
Yeah, I'm there at, I think, 8:45 or 9 o'clock or something.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah.
That's how I used to recruit firefighters.
Firefighters, yeah. They're good,
Shifty little bugger.
good, smart.
Do you like running into burning buildings? Just kidding.
Get out of here.
All right. Anything else, Randy, for us?
I think unless staff has any burning updates that they want to jump in on while they're here, I think that's it for now.
I know
Thank
you
you.
have a few staff people. I could call them up and just have them come up here. I got time.
I want to
Jim has not leaned back in his chair yet. We need to stop that. We need to prevent that from happening.
I want to thank them for showing up tonight and not going to sleep. Good job.
They've learned to sleep with their eyes open. Okay. Next on the agenda, another opportunity for citizen input. Anyone looking at citizens of Canby wishing to raise up here? No, it's not seeing any. Teresa, action review.
You approved the consent agenda and the appointments. You adopted ordinance 1662. You approved ordinance 1663 to not exceed $59,690 and to a second reading on March 4th, 2026, along with ordinance 1664. And you adopted resolution 1451 along with option 2 in the staff report. And additionally, there was consensus, if I can speak tonight, to allow or to approve the mayor to sign a letter of support for the Pink Sisters, and also a consent for the mayor to sign a letter of support for library, transit, police, and security and IT.
Are you done?
Yes,
I apologize.
sure.
I wanted to, before we ran, I wanted to thank Teresa, Natalia, and Teresa Spellman. They spent an hour before this meeting pulling together these lovely packets that you have. So thank you, Teresa, for that.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah. We were talking about it before the council meeting when our packets were all paper and we, have a ream and a half of paper in each packet back in the day, so.
We have to come in and pick them up.
And pick them up.
And then we would get in trouble because we had not come in to pick them up yet. I remember getting those calls because I'm a slacker.
All right. There's no other business. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Jason, are you opposing this evening?
I oppose.
All right, it passes. Good night, Canby. Thank you very much. See you in a couple weeks.